brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Suds, Suds, Suds. It's time for more Suds.
Welcome, everybody, to this Suds episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. I am good old gal Juliana, and today I have at the table good old boy Dave. Well, that's a fine introduction.
That's how I feel.
And our illustrious Reverend Mark.
Hello, folks.
And good old boy Kendall.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
This show is sponsored by Peabody's Wine and Beer Merchants from Boone, North Carolina.
It's named after Pat Boone.
You sure about that?
Not sure about that.
Daniel Boone?
I say Pat Boone
Why do you say Pat Boone?
because I like Pat Boone.
Do you really?
He did one of the worst heavy metal albums ever.
And so that's why you like him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Peabody's Wine and Merchants from Boone, North Carolina features the largest and most eclectic selection of wine and beer in the Southeast. If you can't get to the mountains, then let them ship it right to your doorstep. Please contact them at www.peabodywineandbeer.com.
Pat Boone, North Carolina.
Our Sud segments are all about beer, beer, and more beer. And boy, do we like the beer. Today's show is a show and tell episode. Each host has brought a beer to talk about today. The rest of the hosts have had a chance to try everyone else's beer, and each host is going to introduce the beer, discuss their tasting notes, and then rate the said beer. The beers we are going to discuss today are beers that make you go, with or without the sound edit. That could be, this is surprisingly awesome. This is terrible. I wonder how they did this. Or, I wonder where I can find something to spit this into without being noticed. So, here's a lineup for today. We have from Brewery Oude Bruxelles in Belgium, the Bizarre Lambic. From Steel String Craft Brewery in Carrboro, North Carolina, the Cryin' Holy IPA. From Hampton, New Hampshire, we have the Smutty Nose Spank. And last but not least, from Escondido, California, Stone's Ruin 10 Triple IPA. So, today, Reverend Mark will get the honor of going over our Suds ratings. And just for kicks, he'll do the ratings in the voice of an illustrious Monty Python character. Take it away.
And now for something completely different.
That's awesome.
The Suds ratings go as such. Number 1. That tastes like spam. Number 2. Was that a dead parrot? Number 3. Ah, what a messiah. Number 4. A rabbit named Tim shouldn't make that sound. And number 5. Listen to that burning witch. Give me another.
Oh, Reverend Mark, that was awesome.
Nailed it.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to have a hard time repeating that. Yes, and the crowd does go wild. All right, first up will be good old boy Dave. What did you bring today, Dave?
Well, So today I brought Crying Holy Double IPA from Steel String in North Carolina. So I brought this because I was like, I was just in North Carolina, so maybe I should bring a beer. Now, having tasted it, I'm feeling more like, wonder if I should have thought this through a little bit more. It's a weird tasting beer. It does not come across as a double IPA. It's got hops, and there's malt in there, and there's water and yeast. So technically, it is a beer.
It meets the Reinheitsgebot.
Right. But it's I want to like it, but I don't. I gave this beer a 2.
Ooh.
I think it sucks.
I think that sucks. I think it sucks.
I'm thinking that was a belch.
It was something.
Yeah.
It was a dead parrot.
There was some dead parrot in there. Maybe that's what it was.
Reverend Mark, what did you think of?
Well, I wrote the same. I actually must have copied his notes.
You tasted the dead parrot too?
Yeah, right. I said, what? This doesn't seem to be a double IPA at all. It tastes much lighter, a little flat, doesn't pop to the top with hop. And so, for me, it doesn't even get a 3. It gets a 2.
Oh boy, that was another belch.
And get the machine that goes bing!
And that too. So, Cowboy Kendall, what are your thoughts on this beer?
The first thing I wrote down was nothing gets my attention. I was expecting a lot more from a double IPA. Mm-hmm. I've had session IPAs that have more malt flavor, more hop characteristic, and I'm really wondering if this is just a bad example of this beer. I want to, It's a small brewery I've never heard of. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm hoping that every other batch is amazing. But I think maybe we just got a bad batch.
So let me ask you this. Do you think if on the bottle it said like session IPA or pale ale or even just regular IPA, sometimes a name or a style when they name, listed on a bottle can throw you off, and so in your mind you're expecting one thing, and then when you taste it you get another. Kind of like that commercial where you think you're going to see a horse, but then you see a goat. So, and then you're like, damn, it's a goat. But do you think like if they had listed it differently, that may, because you guys have all judged in beer competitions, and sometimes you'll taste something like, if they had listed it as a northern brown instead of a southern brown, or if whatever, it would have done better. So do you think maybe that if they listed it differently, that I don't think it tastes terrible.
No.
It tastes okay.
Right. No.
But it just, as far as a double IPA, it's not there. It's not going to happen.
No. I'd say pale ale.
Yeah.
If they just listed it as a pale ale, I'd say, that's a pretty good pale ale.
So then I think, it could maybe get a 3 as a pale ale, but as a double IPA, it's just not happening.
No, and I think that's what I'm thinking is maybe I was expecting more because of that moniker, and it's just not there. I've been enjoying a lot of session IPAs this summer, and it's kind of on the lines of that. Yeah. It's very light, not quite watery, but not a lot of body to it.
Yeah,
and I really wish it was more. That's why I'm giving it a 2.
Oh, there's another belch coming. And, I'm pretty much echoing everybody else. It's so watery. When I think of a double IPA, I think of, something that's got a little meat behind it and, a little bit more viscous, and there's no viscosity to this. It's really, I hate to say it, but like, somebody might have thrown some malt extract and some hops together in some water and called it a double IPA. Yeah. And it's really, it's got this astringency that just keeps lingering, too, that I can't get away from.
And it's not really, like a lot of times these beers will open up as they warm. It's not even really, I think it's presented all that it has to present.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, sadly, I gave this one as 2 as well.
Hey, they got nowhere to go but up.
Yep.
Good
True
luck
that.
to them.
And, number 2 was that a belch. Next up will be Reverend Mark.
All right. Well, from Stone Brewery, the legacy of ruination seems to live on, with Stone Brewing trying, as always, to transcend itself by pushing this time, double IPA a step farther. Boom. And so, what I brought today was the Ruin 10 2015, just released yesterday or thereabout. No, it's maybe about a few weeks on the bottle as far as the timestamp is concerned. Very fresh. The Ruin 10 first came out in 2012 as a 10th anniversary commemoration of the ruination. And this particular offering I thought was pretty darn interesting. I have to say the reason why I went, when I saw it on the shelf just this past week in preparing for this show, was that, I was wondering, can they really push it to that next level? That is, there comes a point at which not only is it overkill, but when it comes to, putting the level of hopping on every layer, the bittering, the flavor, and the aroma, plus 5 pounds of hops per cask, or at least per barrel,
Per barrel,
cask,
yeah.
Coming in at 110 IBUs. I didn't know. It was like, let's see where this goes.
I gotta have more cowbell, baby. Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
So that's cowbell and hops, That's,
yeah. And this is ringing the bell.
Yeah. It does ring your bell.
I have to say that I also did a parallel tasting. I found another freshly released triple IPA, the Terrapin Rye Cubed. And so I said, which of these two am I going to bring to the show today?
Yeah.
And this one won out. The Terrapin Rye Cube was really pretty good, but something about that rye didn't really balance things out the way. And I really like rye IPAs. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this one I thought was really pretty good. It didn't come in as a vegetal, sort of over hopped experiment.
Right.
I think it succeeded mostly. I also pick up, in the malt part of it, some biscuit notes and some light caramel. And, so it's a really, really large, commemorative offering that.
Do you know what kind of hops are in it?
I don't. I was actually trying to find that out.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that from what I can pick up from this, that it has a full range of Citra, Amarella, some Cascade, probably some Columbia.
Kind of the holy trinity there.
Yeah. So actually, I can't answer that question.
Though, that it would be those hops, because as far as this style of IPA and like kind of West Coast style, that is sort of the go-to combination of hops. Those few.
Mm-hmm.
It has big West Coast flavors.
Yeah.
If I may interrupt, from the Stone Brewing Company website, they talk about it just being a combination of Citra and Centennial.
Okay, well, I know those two were in there for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of dry hopping.
A lot.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, amber color.
Yeah, it really is.
And It's fairly viscous, but not overly. I mean, we're talking, a barley wine strength beer, but it doesn't really, appear to be, oily or anything. Mm-hmm. It's just goes onto the palate in a very nice way, and I think, at least for my palate, once it gets past 100 IBUs, I'm not really being. I can't. I'm getting to the point where it's a little bit on the numbing side. But this is not really taking me there. It's right at the edge. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because of the malt. So anyway, I like it a lot, and I wasn't sure that I would.
Very good.
So I'm going to give it a 4.
Ooh, body should really not make that sound.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. Good old boy Kendall, what do you think?
I wrote down big, rich, over the top, but all in a good way. This is so over the top in just everything. It has a really strong, getting a little, that caramelly malt backbone, big maltiness to this beer. But then on the flip side, it has a really assertive hop bitterness and hop aroma. It's very well balanced, and as big as everything is, they had to work hard to balance this beer. And usually a beer this big, it's going to go one way or the other. But I really enjoyed that, and as it's warmed up, I'm getting some spiciness from the hops that I'm really enjoying. It's rich, it's filling. I like the flavors, and just a great big West Coast IPA.
How do you like it compared to how they were doing the Ruination before?
Good question. I like the Ruination, but I think I'm a bigger fan of the Ruin 10. I like the changes they've made. They've turned everything up to 11.
There you go. Damn, that's a
it's a Spinal Tap reference. Sorry, it's not Monty Python.
Hey, you know what? We'll take it.
Yeah.
And what's your rating?
I'm giving this one a Suds rating of 4.
And body should really not make that sound. Well, I echo all of you in this. To me, this is like the epitome of what Stone is. When I think of a Stone beer, whatever style it is, I think of like a in-your-face, dialing it up to 11, no holds bar. They're going to take it to the limit. And this really does it, but yet they still get to balance it. And that really blows me away. I mean, it is big and fat and in your face, but yet it's got this delicateness, and I hate to use that word for a Stone beer, so I do apologize, Stone boys. I mean, I get where you're going. But there is like this little delicateness to it that I really enjoy, and it kind of softens that whole West Coast hoppiness, because traditionally I am not a West Coast hoppy girl. I stay away from them. I mean, for as wonderful as they are, they're just too astringent for me almost.
So you're calling this like a chick beer triple IPA?
This is like a chicky West Coast triple.
What
IPA.
Other show would dare call Ruin 10 a chick beer?
That's a great observation.
I'm a contradiction in terms. That's just me. But that delicateness, just makes it balanced and really yummy. And I'm so glad you brought this beer, and I'm giving this puppy a 4. Body should really not make that sound. Good old boy Dave, what do you think?
Well, what do I think?
Well,
please enlighten us.
It's hard to say anything that hasn't been said. I think you're right. When you scale a beer up this much and still manage to keep it, even somewhat in balance between the malt and the hops, that's not easy to do. Because it's very easy to go sideways. One way or the other when you're packing this much flavor. I like the fact, and Mark, you kind of touched on this, that there is viscosity there, but it's not super thick. And when you have something with this much hop and malt and this much flavor going on, you don't really want it to cling to your mouth for a long time, because it's just wearing your palate out the whole time it's there. but I do think the flavor lasts with you plenty long enough. I also gave this beer a 4.
Very good.
Very good.
A body should not really make that sound. Well, we are going to take a quick break for our sponsors to say hello, and we will be back momentarily. Welcome back, and here we are, Sip, Suds, and Smokes with our
beers that make you go,
Why, thank you, good old boy Dave. Here's a random fun fact. Did you know that the concept of show and tell was actually invented in Alaskan mining camps back during the gold rush in 1850?
what?
I had no idea.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So when they were snowed in during those long, brutal winters, the miners would play a game called, wait for it, Show and Smell. Now, I won't go into the rules, but let's just say there were no winners.
This is a complete waste of time.
Well, it helped them bide their time. But anyways, moving on. Good old boy Kendall, what did you bring?
I brought Smutty Nose Spank. Been a fan of Smutty Nose for a long time. I've got some friends from New Hampshire, and they're brewers of solid traditional beers, and I think their brown ale, their robust porter, their Baltic porter, just some of my favorite beers in those styles. And
One of them like Old Brown Dog.
Old Brown Dog brown ale.
That one is good.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, one of the best browns out there. I think it compares with also a brown ale that's named after a dog, the Old Ellie's from Avery.
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
both really good brown ales. But got to visit the charming New Hampshire area a couple of years ago, and the Smutty Nose people actually fed us lunch. I was there for a beer conference, and we went to the Portsmouth Brewery at a brew pub downtown, but Smutty Nose was a co-sponsor, and they've got a history together. I think they were founded by the same people back in the day, in the early 90s. But so just a fan of Smutty Nose, and when I can find one of their interesting beers, I always pick it up. So I got the Spank in Asheville.
Hey, another North Carolina pickup.
Yeah, it is a butt-smackingly delicious hoppy saison ale, according to the bottle.
Whose butt's getting smacked?
I'm not
Gonna
sure.
say.
I am not sure, but yeah, you kind of want to smack somebody. It's so good.
On the butt or anywhere else, really.
Yeah, well, that would be more appropriate for a spanking.
Tell us how you really feel.
But I thought it was interesting that they went something kind of out of their wheelhouse with what I consider they do a lot of English style beers. So to go with a farmhouse beer is a little different for the 21st birthday.
Sure.
Also, I thought it was cool. Picked it up in Asheville. Highland just had their 21st birthday as well. So they're part of the same club.
Yeah.
Both of those breweries are now old enough to drink their own beer.
Nice.
That's awesome. The kids are growing up. Oh.
So this beer is a hoppy saison, the way they describe it. And, that doesn't always work. There's usually one into the other, too hoppy or too farmhouse-like. But I thought this beer was really well done. Has a very tropical aroma. Got some mango in there, and it just smelled great even before I tasted it. And then once I got to enjoy it, just really nicely balanced, big saison farmhouse yeast flavors in there. But also you get some of that hoppiness, and I would love to know what kind of hops they put in this beer. But it's just got so much flavor in a combination that doesn't always work very well.
It's a pretty cool color for a saison too. I mean, you don't usually see them kind of that dark, and I mean, it's kind of a copper almost.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a copper, and it's kind of opaque. It doesn't look like they filtered this one. And it was just really, really enjoyable. I wish I would have got more than one bottle.
So where does the name Smutty Nose come from? That sounds kind of
great question.
Icky.
There's a string of islands off the coast of southern New Hampshire, and one of the largest is the Smutty Nose Island.
Yeah.
And that island was, back in the day, a haven for pirates.
Sorry about that, guys.
Hey, man, sometimes the pirate's got to come out.
So
when your pirate needs to express itself, Mark, just let it out, man. There's no stopping it.
Arr. So the Smutty Nose Island is the namesake of the brewery.
Yeah.
And just a great New England brewery making great beers. And I think they've really done themselves right with this 21st birthday beer. I don't think they usually make an anniversary beer, but this is a good one to start with.
Yeah.
A really nice hoppy saison that lives up to its billing.
Very cool.
I enjoyed it, and I'm giving it a suds rating of 4.
That body should really not make that sound. Very cool. So, in asking about the hops on this beer, the bittering hops in this are Magnum. The aroma and flavor hops are Citra and Sapphire, and then it was dry hopped with Citra and Sapphire.
So that's where we're getting some of those tropical fruits.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
So now I will talk about this beer, and I'm really thoroughly enjoying this beer. When you first told me, that you brought it, and I saw the label, and I saw that it was a hoppy farmhouse, I got scared. I was like,
I get it.
What in God's name is he bringing?
That's why I went,
Yeah, totally. And so I was a little nervous, a little hesitation, but then I smelled this puppy. And this puppy is like, it's trendy, it's beautiful, it's mango yumminess. And then I tasted it, and it did not disappoint at all. It's so tropical and so light though too, and it's interesting. Like I almost got like there was a hint of a goza in it almost, and as it turns out that there's some acidulated malt in there, and I guess that's what I was like tasting that kind of reminded me of of what a goza would be. But it's a beautiful beer. It's really light and easy going down. I mean, it could almost be a lawnmower style beer, even though it's a farmhouse, and it's just this nice blend. I really did not think that you can have hoppiness with the farmhouse, because we've done some previous episodes where we've waxed poetic about farmhouse ales and just how barnyard and danky they are, but how good they are. On their own, and that they didn't really have like a high hop profile. But this is a really nice blend, and this is Smutty Nose growing up, and I'm kind of interested to see what else they'll be bringing to the table from this point forward. And I gave this kid a 4. A body should really not make that sound. Good old boy Dave, what'd you think?
Well, first off, at the risk of being
Banned once again.
let me just say, I don't know how you name a place Smutty Nose Island or otherwise, but sounds like somebody needed some Kleenex or something. I don't know what's going on there.
This was back in the day.
Yeah. Well, maybe everybody has a
pirates.
smutty nose,
I mean, come on. Did pirates, were they clean? Did they take showers?
Not particularly.
Yeah.
Well, that Johnny Depp, I mean, he looked like he was pretty,
Really?
he took care of
Have
himself.
you looked at his eyes?
Well, just because a man wants to wear mascara, all right, and braid his hair, that does not mean he's weird.
Okay.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
Smutty Nose.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. I'll tell you one thing I like about Smutty Nose is like when you go to the store and get their 6-packs and stuff, they usually, on a lot of them, they have like old photos and stuff, some kind of weird thing. It's usually pretty cool.
Like your great grandma or something.
Yeah. Get my great grandma out of this.
Like the two old guys on the Finest Kind IPA. Those guys.
Yeah. Then I think one of them's like a strong man or something.
That's the Robust Porter.
Yeah. See,
good one.
See, I know stuff. I can remember things sometimes.
Okay, so back to the beer.
So what were we talking about again? No.
Spank.
Yes, Spank. Such a cool name.
It is.
Great beer. It's one that I don't think I could drink all the time. There is a lot of flavor. Those Magnum hops, Magnum's a German hop, I think, and it's used for like really clean bittering. But it really has a lot of alpha acids in it. It's very high alpha, and so there's just a lot of bittering going on there. But it works well with the yeast somehow. And I think it's just a really well-rounded beer, and I really enjoy drinking it once in a while. I think it's just sometimes there's flavors that you really like them, but you're like, man, this is kind of making me work for it a little bit. But I do really enjoy this beer, and I gave it a 4.
Body should really not make that sound. Cool. Reverend Mark, what'd you think about this beer?
All right. I loved it.
Short
Don't
and sweet.
hold back,
Tell us
please.
how you really feel, buddy.
Yeah. I love Saisons to start with. And as a home brewer, one of the reasons why I like them is that every sort of version that you come up with can be different than the one before. Because farmhouse ales, have a lot of latitude. That is, obviously, Pilsner malt is at the heart of it all in terms of your malt bill, but you can add in wheat, you can add in rye. I've actually used spelt in the past. So you've got a lot of really interesting adjuncts that can go on.
How is that spelt?
I think it sucks.
But this particular one, it really, really has that kind of farmhouse, funky, spicy wildness, and yet it's sort of brought into a very interesting alignment with a whole range of hop flavors and aromas that are not always typical of a Belgian-style farmhouse. But, of course, we're Americanizing things as we go along. So, as it was mentioned before, we have the Magnum, which you have then, your Continental hops, and then Citra, and you've got pine, citrus, and even some peppery notes that I picked up. I found also that it had, within the malt base itself, some really solid estery kinds of things going on, so we got a lot of really, really good fruit. Some peach, a little bit of apricot, perhaps. And I know we've mentioned every single person here, the tropical aspect, which is certainly there. But one thing I picked up on was tangerine. It just there was kind of just like that tangerine peel, and but not bitter, but it just had that kind of spritzy tangerine aspect to it.
That's cool.
Also, back to the malt part of it, it was a little bit bready, so you had some of that going on to counterbalance all of the spice and all of the citrus that was asserting itself, and so I think it really kind of embodied, on one hand, all of the really good things that you look for in a traditional Saison. And yet, it was had a little bit more of an American influence, and I think again for the Saison, since the parameters are so wide on this style to start with, that I think everything is pretty much allowable. So say that I could say that all again in a different way, but for me at least, it's a beer that I would go back to, and it is also a beer that for today I will give a 4.
Why should really not make that sound. Very cool. We're going to take a quick break and come back with my pick. back, everyone. So, next up is me. And I'm going to talk about a very interestingly strange beer. It is called Bizart, B-Z-A-R-T, Lambic. It is from brewery Oude Biercel in Belgium. So, this beer originated from a collaboration between Domos ad Fontes, which is a vineyard, and the brewery Oude Biercel, which is known for its lambic. That is brewed according to the traditional artisanal method. And Domos ad Fontes is a winemaker with the oldest vineyard in Belgium, where beautiful, sparkling, pure Brut wines are made. So, Bizart Lambic Brut Nature is a natural Belgian sparkling quality beverage based on the traditional lambic methods. It is spontaneously fermented, and the oldest of the still existing beers that probably originated around the 1300s. Pretty impressive.
Wait, this beer came from the 1300s? And we're drinking it today.
We are, yes. Huh. It's very, very special.
Held up pretty well, I'd say.
Why, thank you. So, this lambic is bottled in the classic method, and is applied during the first 13 moons, which I'm assuming equals a year. This means that after adding sugar and a sparkling wine yeast, the liqueur de tirage, this lambic is then re-fermented. Carbon dioxide develops and is locked into the bottle, which then causes the lambic to become effervescent. Other intrinsical steps, such as riddling or disgorging, follow, which eventually lead to the sparkling refined beverage.
I got disgorged once. Let me tell you
not
something.
Pleasant.
All right. I didn't think I was going to make it.
Okay, fine. So, in essence, the beer is rotated on a daily basis, so that the yeast gets to interact with the beer.
Can you imagine having that job? Oh, geez, I'm late for work. Now who's going to rotate the friggin' beer?
Well, somebody's got to do that. So that's done for a while, and then you produce this beer. So this is an 8% ABV, and what I really liked about this beer, when I saw it, and I've had this for a little bit of time, what interested me about it was that it is a lambic, but it's got this champagne-ness to it, because it is re-fermented with a champagne yeast. And so I thought, wow, lambics are traditionally really not that carbonated, and, you know, a very traditional taste. So what would happen if you, brought this to a new level? And I'm really, this is my factor is, really, could they really pull this off? And I think they have. Now, would I drink this all the time? Probably not. I probably couldn't afford this beer every day of the week.
I was going to say.
Because sadly, this has a price point that's just kind of high, and it's because of that guy that is, turning it every day.
That dude gets well paid.
I believe he does, even if he is late.
Time to turn the barrels.
But it's a beautiful color, and it did, the cork popped like a champagne cork.
Sounded like a gunshot.
Well, not quite that.
Small gun.
Small gun?
Like a, BB gun.
Residential gun?
There you go.
Thank you. Exactly like that. But I really enjoyed this beer a lot. I mean, very, very crisp, but still, I got that traditional lambic taste out of it. And, it was sharp, and it was clean, and it was all of these weird different things, and I really liked it, and I give it a 4. My body should not really make that sound. Good old boy Dave, what did you think of my beer?
Well, first off, anytime you name something with a word that starts with B and Z as the first two letters, okay, you're bringing it, okay, because Bizart. All right, first off, it's fun to say. Bizart. See? Sounds like you're in a video game or something.
From the 80s.
I like it. It could be an 80s video game. Man, did you get that new copy of Bizarre? Oh, it's freaking awesome. I only got to level 3.
Oh, wait, I'm thinking of Cubert. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Cubert, Bizarre, they're all the same.
Isn't that the noise that the Cubert character makes?
Boing, boing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He was more boing and not so much Bizarre.
Okay, sorry.
Bizarre. I wonder if we're saying it wrong.
Probably.
Maybe. I'm sorry in
I wonder
advance.
if the B is silent or pronounced like a Q or something. I don't know. These people over in foreign lands, I don't get it. But anyways, I better hit this.
Bam, once again.
Sorry, foreign lands people. Anyway, what were we saying? Oh, sorry. Anyway, so I definitely get the champagne yeast in this because there is sort of a cider flavor component that's in there. And 8% is pretty high ABV for a beer, along these lines. So it's very interesting. It doesn't taste like an 8% beer.
No, it doesn't.
But if you think along the parallels with a nice table wine or champagne, I mean that's about right. So I think it has a good flavor. I love the effervescence of it. But I do think it rounds out well even as it warms up, and some of that carbonation goes away. So I think it's a really good beer, and I'm glad you brought it. I wish we had 100 bottles, but I wouldn't want to have to buy them.
I know.
And I gave this a 4.
Ooh, a body should really not make that sound. Reverend Mark, what'd you think of my beer?
All right. Well, lambics. There's a place for them, and there's certainly a place.
There is. There's a place for all children.
In my belly.
In my belly, yes. Actually, this is a very fine lambic. Not over the top as far as on the lambic side of it. It is sour, but is crisp, and it finishes dry. Although, I've noticed as I've been sipping on it along the way, as it warms up, there's a little bit of fruit that kind of enters into it, and the wood complexity starts to kind of open up.
And it almost gets very winey, doesn't it?
So in some ways,
it's not that whiny.
This is what I find. This is a complicated beer,
And it makes you go,
in that, when you pour it cold and just after you've just popped it, and it is very champagne like, you get certain dimensions of taste and sensation that
is this a York peppermint patty?
yeah,
Are we talking
kind of
about-
like a
We're talking about spank again?
yeah. We're not talking about spank. No.
Certain sensation.
And so it starts out kind of champagne like, almost like there's some sourness, but then it goes really dry and crisp, and it finishes, and it's a good kind of palate cleanser as it's freshly opened and cold. But then as it warms up, it really becomes a very different kind of beer altogether.
Yeah, it does.
And I actually, for my taste, I actually like the beer that has now opened up and warmed a little bit for me. And I find that it's still kind of fizzy, because I think the bottle turners, they've been doing their work.
They've been turning those bottles, man.
So like, it's still there, the fizziness. But as I drink it now, I get that certain kind of light vanilla notes and wood spicy notes and complexity that tends to soften and round it out a little bit. So
now, do you taste any gorge?
Any gorge?
Because they said it was disgorged. So if you taste gorge, let me know, because then that's an issue.
Yeah.
100% gorge free.
Allegedly.
I just totally blew Reverend Mark up.
You did. You just blew my mind, man. I get some pear notes in there, and so it's really rounding out in a good way with kind of a semi-sweet aftertaste. And when I started out, I wasn't going to rate it so as high as I will now, but I would definitely give it a 4.
Yay!
Nice.
Somebody should really not make that sound.
Schnice. That's very
Good old
schnice.
Kendall. What'd you think of my beer?
Everybody's already mentioned it a couple times. So this was the champagne of lambics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so carbonated in the beginning. Just, very effervescent. It was really crisp. The dryness was there. I love the funky nose of this. It just has a great funk to it, which is only improved as it warmed up.
Did you say smutty nose?
Funky nose.
Oh, sorry.
Quite different. Yeah. Great aroma. And as far as a lambic goes, it wasn't too sour. Just a nice tartness to it.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable. But as my sample has warmed and I keep swirling it to release the carbonation, it's almost gone flat. And it still tastes delicious. Very wine-like at this point. The funky character has changed as it's warmed up, and Reverend Mark hit right on it. As it's gotten warm, it's all these new flavors are opening up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking a 4, and I still think a 4 as I've tasted it. But I like the way the beer changes.
So we're saying 4?
Absolutely.
I think we're going 4.
4.
A body should really not make that sound.
Nice.
Well, very cool. Well, this has been a great show and tell, I must admit. That's going to wrap it up for today's Suds episode. So, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and you can catch all of our episodes online, as well as on SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, PRX, and Spreaker, our native media host. iTunes and our own Android app are the easiest way to enjoy the show on your phone. Just search for Sip Sud Smokes on iTunes or in the Google Play Store. We love your feedback, and you can reach us online at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. Our tasting notes flow out daily on Twitter at Sip Sud Smoke, and our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news. Okay. Do us a favor and take the time to rate this episode if you are listening to us online. That's a big, huge help to us. And we get to see your feedback as well.
We need lots and lots of help.
Well, maybe.
Some of us do.
Some of us do, yes.
Me. Okay, we're talking about me, all right? Fine.
Well, that's why you are Leave the Cork In.
I'm not going to talk about that.
All right, well, I am good old gal Juliana saying thank you and goodbye.
I'm, good old boy Dave saying, hey.
And Reverend Mark saying, cheerio.
Good old boy Kendall saying, always drink good beer. Goodbye.
And speaking of which, good old boy Kendall, how else can we talk to you?
My wife and I do a beer blog at Beer Makes 3 with the sole purpose of just educating people on good beer. So please look us up, beermakes3.com.
Aww. Well, thanks again to everybody, and let's keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sip Suds and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see y'all next time.